Twitch to catch on that we're streaming. Yeah, hopefully my mic sounds right. I didn't test it. Ah, we're live. All right. So, on the off chance that anybody's listening right now, let me know if my mic sounds like all robot voice or squeaky. And I also need to adjust this. It's a little bit awkward. Let me make lots of loud, obnoxious noises while I adjust my mic. Not sure how obvious those noises are. Alright, that should do, maybe. I should really just invert this. That's fine, though. I'll leave it for later. Streaming, game dev, building UI, paste. And that's that, and then over here. Yeah, okay. Looks like it's all ready. So in the last episode, we finished getting back to where we started, and now we're going to start to go forward. Won't that be fun, actually doing something? What we're going to do today is create the UI for the overall mission status. So what we've got some tabs over here, but we have some invisible tabs over here. Tabs, I just mean entries. The entries over here are the actual mission objectives, the mission challenges. Then we have a bunch of space. Great, I start to stream, and the instant I start to stream, I get hiccups. Isn't it just the way of things? All right, so over here we're going to have a list of people, and then over here we have a list of people as well. This is active crew, and this is passive crew, or vice versa, whatever we decide on in the end. Which means that if we want to put up a general display, we've got to do it either across the top here or over here, bumping this down a little bit. I think it's better if it's over here, bumping this down a little bit. So that's what we're going to do. The actual setup for these is not in mission control, though. It's here in the sidebar canvas. Here's the sidebar. All we really have to do is move this sidebar down to, say, -50, and then add in another element that's not a sidebar. So we'll just put it up in the corner and then say it's anchored like this and give it 5, 5, 5, -5, 30. Oh, not 30 is wrong. 300? No, 300 is wrong. 200 and 30. I'll make that 35. Make that 40. All right, something like this, right? And we could have it like be part of a vertical layout group, but that would be a vertical layout group instead of a vertical layout group, and that just seems arbitrarily complicated for no reason. This isn't something that's going to change after we, finish polishing it. This is obviously still all default UI stuff in terms of the visuals, but for now we're just going to keep using the default visuals. We'll replace them later on once we know a little bit more about how the game's actually going to look. This is going to be mission state. That's not how you spell it. Mission state. And because it's going to be mission state, it shouldn't be in the sidebar canvas. It should be in mission control. And that's why I don't want to put them in the same object, because I want them in two different sub-objects, right? So we're going to put a couple of text boxes in here. We got a couple of options as to how to lay these things out, but you can see that we don't have as much space as you might think. This is not as large an area as it might initially appear. So we're going to have to be careful to try and make it so that everything is able to fit inside of whatever space we choose. So something like this, and then if we can duplicate it and put it down below, like that. That should work. We got two text boxes now, and it should allow us to have two lines showing what's going on with our mission. However, what we actually want to do is have three text boxes, and this one's going to be right justified. And this one's going to be days and cash, right? So this is going to be cash. Now that's Cassie. Wow, I'm not managing to do this whole keyboard thing. I just put down $50 or whatever. And then over here, this is going to be days. And we're going to put down T plus 3, something like that, right? And up here, we're going to put the actual name of the mission, right? For now, we'll just make it the ship name. We'll call it the Pufferfish mission. Okay, my brain is not working today. All right, Pufferfish mission. So right now we're just going to leave it like that. It should be fine. I'm going to punch up the whiteness of the backdrop so we can see it. There we go. And now all we have to do is wire this up to the mission parameters. You know what? None of these mission parameters really exist yet. So that's what we're going to do. Here we have our mission control. You can see that mission control does not contain any concept of cache. That's because that's actually on the company down here, you see? So what we need to do is either put mission state inside of company or vice versa. You know what? We're going to go ahead and just have it be from here. We're not going to worry. Well, all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to add some mission control variables. Here we go. So one of the variables we're going to add is cache. That's not a, sorry, int void. And cache is just going to get the cache from the, what was the name of that? It was a company state dot cache. There we are. We're also going to need to have, return, sorry. We're also going to need to have days, and that's going to be days elapsed. Right? So what we're going to want to do is make it so that these automatically populate the two text boxes we created. This is quite easy. All we have to really do is add a new component that's a UI. Hello? Hello? Oh. What just happened? I don't know what I don't know what happened there. Hopefully I didn't accidentally add something. These all look legit. All right, so the target is going to be our mission control script. And we're going to refresh every frame. And that should automatically populate cache and date as long as they are named precisely the same thing. The only problem is that cache and date currently populate with an integer rather than with these values. So if we hit play, we're not going to get dollars or days. We're just going to get 10,000 and t plus 3 days. Should be 0. Oh, my bad. Got to name it the same thing. There we are. And that's obviously not great. So what we're going to do is we are going to create, either we could create more text boxes or we could put together a string-based version. In this case, we're going to do both. So we're going to take this cache, we're going to duplicate it, and cache 1 is just going to contain a string. We'll call this cache label. And then our cache itself, we're just going to move it so that it's off to the side a little bit, like so. There we have it. The other problem with this is that the cache, okay, so I changed my mind after doing that. And the reason is because we're going to have commas in the cache. I guess we'll just make a string version of both. So public string cache cache text get. We're going to return string plus cache. But here's the thing. What I actually want to do is format the cache out to have commas in it. And I don't remember how to do that. Give me a moment. C# int2 comma string.format. There it is. So the format we're looking for is O N N? No, I just want O N O, right? There we are. There we are. And that should allow us to actually get the commas in there, which will be nice. So we'll just name this cache text, hit play, and it should change over to 50,000 with a comma in it. Well, that didn't work. What did I screw up? Cache to string. Oh, and oh. Isn't that string format? Okay, well, we'll do it the long way here. String to string. Wait, is capital, is this the difference between capital S string and lowercase string? Is that what's going on here? Well, we'll give it a shot. No, that's not working. So something about this is different than the display example that I'm getting online. How obnoxious. String format. Try one more time in this search. Okay, so it's just a different format apparently. Oh, whatever. Pound, comma, pound, pound, O. Let's try it. I don't ever have to do this in C#, which is why I'm kind of struggling and looking up examples. There, perfect. All right, so now what we need to do is have the day text have the same thing here. And once again, we'll just go ahead and name this day text. Is it day text or days text? Days. Well, that didn't work. There we are. Good. So now it should work. And all I really did was create some customized fetches. This is, to me, easier than trying to get it to... Oh, the Relin says stuff. Hold on. Sorry, I didn't see you pop in there. Hello, the Relin. This works because you have the uBinder script, yeah. So the uBinder script is something you can download for free. It's pretty common, but what it does is it takes whatever it's pointed at, in this case mission control, and it just looks for UI elements that have the same name as variables, properties, or functions in the thing it's pointed to. So because I created a variable called days text, then I created a text field called days text, they match up and they'll keep syncing up forever. It's much easier than constantly writing code, boilerplate to push to specific text boxes and stuff. So, excuse me. So therefore, that's what I almost always use. It has some problems. It's got, it's a very simple procedure and it's not great for everything. But just when it comes to just boilerplate shoving crap to the UI, that's what I use. All right, so now we've got that set up. What are we going to do? We're going to make a next button. So what's the next button? The next button is going to be over here next to the mission system. And what we're going to want to do is set up the mission system to have a gap above it as well, except for it's going to be a button instead of a display. We could also put it at the bottom of the screen, which it might be a better idea. Let's go ahead and put it at the bottom of the screen for now. So this mission state, we're going to go ahead and add in another... Oh, that's not going to work. We're going to go ahead and just add it into the mission control button. We're going to want to turn off automatic navigation. To be honest, it should be turned off for everything. Well, maybe we'll leave it on. Come on, stop. There we are. We're going to want to put that in the bottom right-hand corner with the correct anchor points and make it like 10, negative 10, negative 10, or 10, 10, something like that. And instead of being called button, we're going to make it the wait button. And we're going to give it the text of wait, or what do you want to call it? Sleep, shift change, shift change. We'll call it shift change. Why not? And we're going to change the color of it just a little bit because we want people to know that this is a button that actually has an immediate effect. It doesn't just pull up a UI, a set of UI options. So what we're going to do is the highlighted color is going to be different. We're going to make it a yellow. And then the pressed color is going to be red. And that should make it real clear that when you're changing shifts, you're doing something substantial. The other thing we have to do is make this button do something. And what this button is going to do is it's going to call against the mission control function, and it's going to call a mission control.nextShift. You can see that we have a small problem with that, and that is that the function nextShift doesn't exist. So let's create it. So nextShift is just going to be time passes and all your systems go back to being unused. So here in nextShift, what we're going to do is we're going to say days plus plus, and then what we're going to also do is set up the challenges, not the challenges, the modules, so that they are no longer all used up. Unfortunately, there is no static module function for doing that, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the module and make one. We could do it inside of the mission system, but I prefer to do it inside of the module just because that way we get a nice tight loop where nobody is too confused. This is also how we've already been doing it for this project. Most of these classes control their own instantiation rules, so we'll just keep doing that. Hold on. We're going to have to make it an event. Okay, so that's fine. So public static void next. I just forgot the thing I just called it. Next shift. And then we're just going to have a public static Unity event on next shift equals new static Unity event. Just a new Unity event. Yeah, there we are. One of those things. The only question is whether Unity event is, yeah, okay, so that should work. And then here we'll just say on next shift.invoke. And debug.log shift change resetting used modules. And then when these modules come online, what we're going to do is we are going to sign up for that event. So there is no awake because I didn't ever plan on these being instantiated. So we're going to have to create one. Public void awake. That's not how you spell it. Not even close. On next shift dot add listener next shift. So public void, or just normal void. And then here we say if state equals tired state, yeah, equals module state dot tired state equals default. There we go. Very simple, and it should allow us to have all of this stuff just work. It's a little bit boggy in terms of having a lot of free events. The other thing we're going to want to do is unsign up for it when we self-destruct. We don't actually need to, just because of the way that it automatically handles that kind of nulled event, but I like it to be a little bit clean, so that's what we're going to do. Now, putting in next shift as, this doesn't need to be public either. I just make everything public because I'm not working with a team, but in this case, these being public would just muddy up the autocomplete. All right, so now what we're going to do is try it on for size. So all we have to do is go back over to mission control and put in that next shift. There we have it. And we'll just go on over into the mission control button that we just created, the shift change button, and use that next shift. There we go. And let's try it on. So what we've got is a command system here. Well, let's use it. Boom, we got it. It works. Now it's used up. We're going to go down to engineering. We're going to turn on the chemical tanks. And now you can see we can't use them here. Now what we want to have happen when we change shifts is the power conduits should come back and the chemical tanks should remain used. Like that. Perfect. So this will allow us to actually get through our missions according to, a certain amount of effort. So if we then dock with the station and then do a comm check, more command, security checkpoint. Oh no, we are out of modules. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a shift change. T plus 2 days, all these things come back, and then we can continue along our way. So you can see that what we've got is a setup where we have to go quite a ways, and that's going to take us several shifts given our pretty crappy engine setup, and that's the point. And I'm going to make shift change maybe automatic. Not automatic, but like a key you can press. Like I'll just keep an eye out, and if you press the space bar, I'll make it a shift change or something. We can do that later, though. So that is all pretty handy, and we'll just see how far we can get here. We should be able to get all the way to the end. There we go. So we now have finished the entire mission selection, and unfortunately for us, there is no after a mission. When we finish the mission, it just stops. What's the error? Get cache. So what's happening here is that we're actually triggering the get cache before we have a live. So we'll just put in an emergency. If no live, return 0. If live, set the cache. No problems. All right, so now we can actually progress through the game, but the problem is, of course, that all of our interfaces are ugly and not everything works. For example, we have a crew of like 20 people, and none of them can actually be activated correctly. Just to show you that, when we hit play, I just cleaned my glasses by smearing more crap all over them. Come on, glasses. Stop being goopy. Oh no, it's getting worse. Maybe I should stop using that particular... This is what you come here for, right? ASMR of someone cleaning their glasses. All right. So when we go down into command, you can see that we've got a bunch of people. And here, what we're trying to get is people that, can do stuff for us. We can't actually scroll this right now because of the clumsiness of my implementation. We'll deal with that later, I suppose. But you can see how I can turn them on. But the problem is that they're all for this sensor system rather than for the command. So what we're going to do is change one of them over to being for the command. And just show you that doesn't work, and a couple other things like that. So down in Pufferfish, do we have all the characters? No, it's in the barracks. Here it is. Here's A. And A has an ability called Adjust, which is a mission adjust of -1. And the system we're using is Support, which we're going to switch over to being Command. And if we hit play and go down here, you can see that now it's a command. It decreases system output by 1. So if we click on that, what should happen is we should be able to get our system command to decrease by 1 when we click on it, but it's not going to happen because it doesn't know how to check for it. Also, the module we're looking for, what is it? because I didn't pull it down as far as I should have. So let's just take a look and see what this is here. The crew UI, of course. So the crew UI is just a little bit too high. We're going to take the top down by another 40 or so and see if that looks right. X Sardon says lol, presumably about me cleaning my glasses. We got a lot of UI things to fix here. The worst of which is this spammy output system, which we'll condense in a couple of different ways. But right now, we've got this command of less than 4 and this guy that wants to decrease system output by 1. And we're never going to be able to tell whether that's true because our command is at 3. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go down to the command section. Here are the power conduits. We're going to just adjust their base value to 5. And what that means is that we're going to be failing that first objective. So if we go over to navigation and we take our power conduits, it's going to say permits not valid, $10 re-registration fee, and there's our $10 charged away. So what we can do then is we can try and get that to reflect the actual crew powers that have been activated. And in order to do that, we're going to have to just go ahead and see what the heck we're doing with it. So let's pop it up here. Crew abilities, go to definition. Here it is. So crew abilities have to activate and get added to a list of activated powers in the exact same way that modules would. Modules currently are implemented, but not as much as we might want. So what I should probably do is sorry, I'm trying to remember how I did this. I know that I didn't do it very well. I just kind of did it half-heartedly. But basically what happens is we add ourselves to a list of activated powers. I bet it's over here in the module abilities. Oh, it's in the one kind of module ability that actually does that. So it's in module sustainability. There it is. So here are the active abilities of the modules. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and implement these first, and we'll come back to crew at the end. I'm going to close all this crap down. Oh, I can just click on it. Close others. There we are. So I don't know why these are green. They are fine. It conflicts with itself, which is brilliant. As you can see, this is a very smart system. So anyway, what we're doing is we've got a list of sustained abilities, and what we want to do is check and see whether or not any of our challenges or submissions actually get affected by this sustained ability. So in order to check that, what we're going to have is a set of functions that can adjust integers that are submitted to it. Green because OmniSharp has to be restarted. You are 100% correct. So here we're going to go ahead and say public virtual int, and then we're going to pass it an integer value. And this is going to be a couple of different things. So one of the things it's going to be is a mission, or rather challenge adjust. And we're going to just pass it a challenge, like so. And that's just going to be return challenge.value, or challenge dot, oh, we don't have, no, what's I call it then? It's adventure. There we are. So then we go down here, and we're trying to get the challenge number out of it. So value. There it is. The value is just what we're gonna get back from it. Public virtual int module adjust module, and we're just going to return module.value. It's pretty basic stuff, right? And all we really need to do is override that for sustained abilities that have a specific purpose, which is exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to need to go through that function a lot whenever we get someone who's trying to do something. We're going to want to go through all of the active abilities. So let's create static versions, public static int, and then we're going to create global versions of these challenge adjust and module adjust. And I have long had the habit of just putting underscores in front of them, which is what we're going to do here. So we're going to make those like this and see whether or not that's going to work. Cannot be private. We don't want them to be private. We want them to be protected. There we are. And then we'll make public versions on the actual there. And then we'll just go ahead and say for each sustained ability A in active abilities, it's not going to work, is it? The problem is that we're not passing in an integer, we're passing in an offset. So what we're actually going to do is we don't want to adjust the value. We want to just return how much we're adjusting the value. We want to return a delta. So we're going to just rename these challenge adjustment. That way it's not a verb, it's a noun. And what we're going to do is we're going to return 0. The reason that I'm not so sure about this is because it's actually a little overkill to descend from this if we're just going to have that. But we'll go ahead and do it anyway. We'll come back and tighten it up later if we have to. So int adjust equals 0. And then challenge adjustment. There we go. And for here, we're just going to say adjust plus equals a dot challenge adjustment challenge. And then we return adjust. And then we do the same thing for mission adjustment. No, sorry, module adjustment. No, I'm just an idiot. It's very hard to program when your brain isn't working, and I'm afraid that my brain is halfway to sleep. I'm not sure why, but I'm not doing too great with the whole not making basic logic mistakes. This doesn't bode well for the overall structure of my game if I'm doing this sort of coding while I'm completely brain dead. Anyway, what we're going to have to do is go over into both the challenge and the module and override their values to actually take that into account. So here, for example, you can see we've got a value of 3. What we're actually going to want to have is a value that gets adjusted. So we're going to have this as a base value, and we're going to say that we're previously serialized as now that should be it. Let's just take a look here. Unity previously serialized. Formerly serialized. Go away. Why is it not working? Formerly serialized as, it's spelled right. Oh, it's not working because Visual Studio Code is not very good. That's fine. We don't care as long as it works. So that's going to be our base value, and then we're going to have a public int value. And the value is going to do the exact same thing. It's going to return base value plus sustained ability dot adjust. So sustained ability is in the namespace subsystem. So we're going to want to just punch that in here. Subsystem dot sustained ability dot challenge adjustment. This. Boom, like so. And that will allow us to get the sustained abilities in play. But right now, we don't have any sustained abilities that actually adjust anything. We also have to make it so that it's not just the challenge, but it's also the module. That should actually be easier because the modules are... you're barfing. For fuck's sake. Oh, we just have to change this. Give me a moment. Challenge value set base value equals value. Ooh. I didn't think about that. I think that this local value overrides the global value. Because when the set actually uses the term value, I think that's okay though. I don't think that's going to malfunction. If it breaks, then we know it malfunctioned. So hit save, just in case. Just flip, 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 flip. There we are. So we're going to go ahead and just see whether this causes an infinite loop before we go any further. It didn't. Hooray. So because of that, we're fine. All we have to do now is set up some other elements here. We got the mission doing its thing. We're going to need to have the module also doing its thing. So here, the module sustainability is correct. What we actually need to change is the module itself. The module itself already has a value system. Here it is, this complicated value system. And what we're going to actually need to do is just put in some of our offset. So int offset our adjustment equals sustained ability dot module adjustment this. And then what we'll do is we'll just add it to every single thing we return. Boom. So that's pretty basic stuff right there. The only problem with this setup is that if we have multiple things, multiple abilities on the module that adjust the module's value, only the first one will fire, but that's fine. We can always change that later if we need to. So here we are with our setup for this, but we don't have any abilities that actually do anything. There's no other sustained abilities other than the base. So we're going to add in a I guess I will descend from it. There's a risk of just being too descendant happy here, but whatever. So we'll go ahead and call it sustained adjustment. Mifaz says that he didn't know about formerly serialized as, but he caught on to the fact that I needed another namespace before I did. So the sustained ability is here in the namespace subsystem. We'll just pop that in. And then, of course, we're also going to want to descend from sustained ability. There we go. We're going to need a couple of... this is getting obnoxious. We're also going to need a couple of new variables. So public... we're going to go ahead and make an enum here. Public enum... adjustment target, and the two types are going to be challenge and module. So public adjustment target, adjustment target, sure, why not? And we're also going to need a public enum adjustment type. But I think, no, we can't reuse one of the other ones. That's fine. Lower, raise, soften, harden. Public adjustment type. Adjustment type. Public int amount. And then we're going to override. So the sustained adjustment is, it inherits from sustainability. I'm trying to feel, well, I don't want to, that peak definition is awful. I wish I could remove it. So here we have a list of things, but what I really need is what our system is, and I don't believe that we have that set up. Oh, sprite system, here it is. So we actually already have it set up, so that's fine. We'll just grab it that way. So override. It's not actually opening them. It's doing something weird and overriding each tab as it comes up. This is a strange IDE. I guess it's okay, though. Now all we need to do is override these. And I don't remember what they're called, so I'm just going to copy and paste. There we go. And we're going to need to get some of that namespace goodness running here. So in here, in challenge adjustment, we're going to say if adjustment target does not equal challenge, return 0. And then down here, we're going to do the same thing, but obviously the opposite. Then we're going to make sure that the systems match. So if system does not equal challenge.system, nope. We have to track down where the actual system is, because we got a couple of things named system. And what I need is the icon. Icon. Okay, it's called icon. So that's not very bright of me. I don't know why I have one named system as well. Return icon.name. Okay, I see. So I guess we'll just use icon. We can change it later if we need to. If the system does not equal the challenge.icon, return 0. There we go. That should all work. And then, of course, if it does match, then we need to figure out what we're returning. So we're going to switch adjustment type. Default, return 0. Case adjustment type dot lower. Return. Oh, wait. We don't need lower, raise, soften, harden. We just need change and soften. So here in soften, what we do is we check and we see what the operator is on the challenge. If the operator is high, then, well, you know what, now that I'm thinking about this, soften only works on challenges. It doesn't work on modules because the modules don't have a concept of softening, do they? 6 of 10 says, re. Welcome, 6 of 10. Don't know what that means, though. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and just check. So if challenge.type, no, challenge.action, there it is. If challenge.action equals less than, I guess we could put in a switch for actions. Switch challenge.action. default return amount. Case less than, return negative amount. That should do. And then down here in the module adjustment, we're going to just go ahead and return value, or return amount. Now the problem is that I set this up as one class, but there are values that don't make sense depending on which direction you go. I could make it two classes, but let's not get too snap happy about it. And so we'll put in a tooltip. Does only works if you're adjusting challenges. Only matters, I should say. There we go. And that should be fine, and hopefully it would work just great. All we have to do now is put one into the game. 6 of 10 says, is this using the default Unity libraries? I know nothing. I know a bit of coding, but I know nothing of libraries. Well, libraries, there's a couple of different things that you might mean. It's using some of the default Unity libraries. I removed a lot of them. I didn't need any of the libraries to help me scam my customers or spy on them, so that was, about half of the baked-in Unity libraries. Recently, you've been able to remove another set of baked-in Unity modules as well, like the physics module, but I haven't done any of that. In terms of things like namespaces, those aren't from a separate library. They're just namespaces. The only custom library in this, if you want to call it that, is a single lonely module that I programmed a long time ago that just helps me do UI work really fast. So that's the only external library. And it's just like raw code. There's no linking or anything. Nothing complicated going on there. Anyway, we are going to put some of this into the game, and the way we're going to do that is we are going to grab the chemical tanks here, and we are going to replace this sustained ability with a sustained adjustment. Kaboom! So it wasn't engines that we wanted, it was, I think, command. So command phase mission, I think that's correct, can activate on any system, is activated. Adjustment target, challenge, adjustment type, soften by 1. All right, so let's go ahead and see whether or not this works. Okay, so the first thing that didn't work is that this abilities array barfed, and I think it would be okay if I set it to 0 length. I think the reason it was screwed up is because it was already set to 1. Nope, apparently not. So let's go ahead and set that abilities array up properly, because that's dumb. Here we have it, abilities. If abilities length equals 0, abilities equals get components abilities. Oh, we just haven't called for it yet. That's fine. It'll pop into existence once we activate it. So what we're going to do is we'll take a look at the navigation, and you can see that our power conduits of 5 are higher than 4, right? So what we're going to need to do is go down into engineering and turn on our chemical tanks, but we can't. There we go. So now if we turn on the chemical tanks, you can see that it says less than 3. So the soften is backwards. We're just going to go ahead and invert the soften code that we created here. So now if we activate the chemical tanks, you can see now it says less than 5, which is exactly what we wanted. Of course, the no description and that sort of stuff is all a problem, but that's something we can fix later on. For now, we can go back over here, we can do our power conduits, and you can see that it worked. We didn't have any problem with our permit. We didn't lose any cash. So after all of that, it works fine. The next step is to just do the exact same thing, but for abilities with crew members. So all we really need to do is go over into the crew member section and duplicate that same nonsense. So here we have our crew ability. with soften and adjust, right? But they don't actually do anything right now. So we need them to actually work. And the way that they're going to work is that when they're activated, they're going to add themselves to a list of activated crew abilities. But we're going to want to look at them a little bit here. Yeah, they don't have any built-in function for changing values, so that's something we're going to have to put into. So public static list crew ability active abilities equals new list crew ability. And then we can go over into the module and we can grab just the same, oh, it wasn't the module, it was a sustain adjustment, and just grab this same stuff here. Here we go. So, kaboom. And obviously this is going to be crew abilities instead. And you might think that what we should do is inherit from an interface. You would be right. Let's not be super lazy. Let's go ahead and do exactly that. No. Let's be lazy and not do that. We'll just go ahead and cut and paste. And that's the sort of people we are. Today, at least. We don't have the right subsystem or the right namespaces, so we'll just grab them, drop them in. Oh, we got one of them. There we go. And that should work. The only problem is that currently we don't have any activation set up here. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and put in a Boolean. Tooltip, do not activate when, do not add to activation list if true. Which is the same thing that we got out of using the sustainability as a descendant in the other case. I'm not really sure. I'm probably going to have to go back into this crew ability and smash it because it's going to get too complicated. Too many special cases. But for now, it should be okay. So here in activate, what we need to do is if not instant, then we want to add it to the list. If active abilities, so hold on, we actually want to public virtual. Now, I am thinking about this entirely wrong. Even if it's instant, you get added to the list. What we don't have is a public virtual int deactivate. I don't know why they're returning ints. There's no ints involved. Let's make these voids. There we are. And it's going to be the same basic setup as everywhere else. What we're going to have to do is activate and deactivate. We got to find references to these. And if we take a look, the places where they're referenced are nowhere. Nothing activates or deactivates the crew. And the reason for that is because right now what we do is we have the crew go on, we have them go on to, what do you want to call it, active duty. And the way we do that is when we click on them, they shift from the right side to the left side of the screen. If we look at the crew, what they've got is they've got crew on duty here, on duty. Here it is, crew member roster. crew on duty, roster add crew, on duty invoke crew, on off duty invoke crew. So what we're going to want to do is when we do this on duty and off duty, we're going to want to tell our abilities that they're on duty or off duty, but we don't have to. We already know whether they're on duty or off duty. So what makes more sense for us is that rather than keeping a list of active abilities, we will go ahead and let the existing list just do its work. There we go. So what we're going to do is here in crew member, when we're on duty or off duty, we're going to need a couple more functions, and those are going to be the roster is who's on duty right now. So just add that in as a comment. And what we're going to need to do is add in a public static int on module change. And these are the things that we were going to add before, right? Here they are. But rather than being on crew ability, they're going to be on the roster. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of our abilities. This is a static, so for each crew member M in or C in roster, and again we're going to want to go in and put these in as non-statics as well. There we go. Same thing as in the other setups. I hate redoing code like this, but in games you end up doing a lot, and I don't know of anybody who really aggressively avoids reusing code in games. Anyway, that should work. All we really have to do now is go through the abilities. So int adjust equals 0 for each ability. For each crew ability, C in abilities. Yeah, there we are. Adjust plus equals C dot challenge adjust. Oh, they're not public. There we go. There we go. Now the last thing we have to do is actually add that call to the places where we need it, and that's going to be here in module.value and over in challenge.value. So let's just look for value here. It's here somewhere. Here it is. And we're going to just add it together with crew dot crew member dot sustainability. No, dot module adjustment. There we are. And of course, that's the extent of it there. But we also have to go over and make that change in and this is kind of a lot of boilerplate that I'm not sure we're going to keep. It's not too complicated at the moment, but this is sort of a fair amount of special case coding. It could bite us in the ass later. Whatever, we live. So what we're going to do is hit play. and then go down into command. And you can see that this here says it's going to decrease system output by 1. So we should be able to look over into nav, and you can see that all of these now have a 0 because of a Stack Overflow exception. All right, so we've got a problem where we have a loop, and that's just me being stupid here. What? I must have pressed play twice. Let's try that again. So here we've got a problem where we seem to be getting the components in children of crewability as a Stack Overflow. Well, let's cache it. If abilities.count.length equals 0, then abilities equals this, return abilities. Is there a do not serialize? I believe that there's a do not serialize, right? Oh, that's all that's in there. Unity do not serialize public field. Non-serializable. Okay. Oh, well, where is it? System. Okay. There we are. That'll keep me from accidentally filling it up. I should put that in some other places too, but I always forget how those things are spelled, as you can see, so it's kind of obnoxious. Anyway, we should now have that problem solved. Ah, it barfed. So if we take a look, oh, darn it. God damn it, where was it? There it is. So we really need to check and see if it's null. I got too used to Unity automatically filling things in. If abilities equals null, or abilities.length equals 0. And we'll just go ahead and set this to null as a starter. Hit command, there we are, click it, overflow exception. Oh, the problem is that I'm an idiot. This is something that happens a lot. You have to be an idiot more often than you aren't. I was just not calling the modules function. I was calling the function on the crew member again. There we go. So now if we go over to navigation, this isn't changed, and I'm not sure whether that's true. Yeah, so that didn't actually change it. What it should have done is decrease system output by 1, but maybe I forgot to actually make it happen. Okay, so the problem is that crew ability, adjust and soften, those are things that don't actually do anything. So crew ability alone, hold on. Didn't I make like a crew ability? Challenge adjustment, module adjustment, phase. Oh, I never overrode it. That was what was going on. So it's just returning 0 right now. So the problem is that I'm an idiot. Let's go ahead and fix it up a little bit. So adjust is going to be override what is it? Protected? Public? Yeah. Public. So if we look in to adjust here, what we're going to do is make that module adjustment. So public override int module adjustment, and then we will just return, well, we need to check and make sure that we're for the right system and all that stuff. So if module.system, is that going to be a string? I can never remember. Oh, we don't have the right. Using adventure, using ship. Or is it using subsystem? I think that should be fine. Using module.system. It's a sprite, good. So if the module.system equals this.system, nope, that's not it. It's not going to work. My guess is that we have to get the system from our boss, the crew. So the crew member has an affiliated system, but the crew ability doesn't know how to get the crew member at the moment because we never programmed it to. So what we're going to do is just have that be gettable. So the only problem I've got is that I believe that getComponent in parent actually excludes you. So we're going to try getComponent, then we're going to try getComponent in parent, and then we're going to return parent. And that should work. So now we can get the parent in our adjust or any other crew ability. So parent.system. There we are. So if module.system does not equal parent.system, then return 0. Otherwise, return value, I guess. Yeah, pretty basic. And then we're going to just have that same setup for soften. Except instead of module, it's going to be challenge adjustment, which I believe requires us to be using the adventure namespace. And then everybody died at the end. Yep, that's probably going to happen. So if that's how you spell it. If challenge dot, I believe it's actually challenge.icon. Yeah. If challenge.icon does not equal parent.system, return 0. Otherwise, return not value. We actually have to have a switch, if you might remember, because that was the same thing we were doing over here. Where we need to make it so that the sustained adjustment has this. So we'll just come over here into crew ability, adjust, soften. There it is. Switch challenge.action. There we go. This is value rather than amount. Boom. All right, so now it's actually programmed. Maybe it'll work. We're coming up towards the end of the stream, so if you've got questions or comments, now would be a good time to start to make them. But for now, we're going to go over to navigation. You can see Power Conduits is at 5. Then if we go over to Command and we turn on AA, Power Conduits should drop to 4, but they're not. Okay, so that didn't work. So here, this adjustment is supposed to adjust systems related to command down by 1, but it's not. Let's go ahead and see whether it's being called. Once I finish debugging this, we'll be done for the week, and I'll come back on Saturday. Won't that be fun? So we go down into Command, and we hit AA, and then we go Navigation. It doesn't actually get called. You see how that never happens. So the question is, why doesn't it get called? One of the possibilities is that the crew member isn't properly being called. So what we're going to do is we are going to see whether or not that's the case. It's not being called. See how that's not changing at all? So that means that the actual module adjustment here is never actually being activated. If we go over to module and we go down to value, here we are. We're supposed to be adding in crew member module adjustment. Crew member module adjustment is right here, and it does this all crew member check, as you can see. But it doesn't seem to actually be doing that. We might have a problem where it has disconnected from the IDE and it's no longer correctly recompiling the code base. That does happen, but we'll see. So you can see that it didn't say hey at any point, which means that the module value is never actually being asked for, which is wrong. That's just dumb. There's no possibility of that being the case. No, something stupid happening here. So these are subsystems, or rather modules. The sun just hit my eyes. There. So these are subsystems here, and they have this setup where they bind correctly, and one of the things they bind to is just value, which means that they should be asking for value. If we look at the module UI function, the value call just returns module.value. So the idea that module.value is never being called is really dumb. There's no possible way that that function isn't being called. The problem is that the IDE isn't causing a recompile. So what we end up with is nonsense. I'm not sure why that is. Sometimes it just happens. So we're going to go ahead and recompile everything here. I don't think one refresh is going to do it, though. Reimport. Now it should start to shout at us. Nope, still not shouting at us. This is weird. What's going on? Well, let's pull up the module UI. I don't know why ship UI is down here. Module UI. Debug.log. This feels like a problem with the setup. Yeah, look, it's not even saying, huh. I think what we've got is a catastrophic failure of compiling. This is really dumb. The UI binder refreshes every frame, so what we should see is a kabazillion of those hs. But instead, what we've got are none. And the reason for that is simple. somehow Visual Studio Code has decided not to actually do anything, and so nobody is getting their setup. You know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and call it a done. Mifa says even in editor, over here I can see the correct setup. See? So I don't know why it's not showing up properly in the actual game. It must be using the old compile, and I can't do jack shit about it. It's Unity that launches the build process. Yeah, but in order for Unity to launch the build process, the IDE, Visual Studio Code, has to properly tag the files as dirty. And sometimes I've had problems in the past where it doesn't. And I had a lot more problems back when I was using an old version of the thing I was using before this, Mono. And it would just not mark files as dirty, and so they would never get recompiled. And what I'd really like to do is recompile, but unfortunately there's no clean and recompile option. All there is a reimport, which is not really what I want. But if I do a reimport, it'll work. It's just that it'll take forever. So I'm not going to do that on camera. Also, I'm not sure if I'm even still online because I am getting this gorgeous network error problem on Twitch. So if I am offline, sorry, but this was a good time for it because I'm going to stop now. Have a great week.